All right, hard to believe we've got 14 practices in, but they always come and go pretty quick once you get started. So good to have a pretty crisp practice today. Thought we got a lot of things accomplished, a lot of good situations worked on, and kind of get some guys to get their legs back a little bit and not light workout in the morning, and then be ready to go for Saturday. So it's been a very productive spring. So a lot to work on ahead of us, but a lot of good work in the book. So very, very, very pleased with where we're at.
From your perspective as the commissioner of the draft, how do you think it went?
You know, it's always interesting. Matter of fact, this has been one of the more intense ones that I've been a part of. But I kind of figured that because the two head coaches are pretty feisty, and that hasn't disappointed. You know, so that kind of theme has continued, and they were even having a little lively debate yesterday about some things. But it should be good. So I think the teams are pretty balanced. You know, and there's always a little bit of because the spring you don't have your full roster here, so you're not as deep as you will be in the fall. So that creates a lot of the interesting picks, you know, to who decides to go a certain direction, and so I'm anxious to see how it kind of plays out. But when there's a steak dinner on the line, and the pride of having to be the one that receives it, not have to serve it, I think that's really the bigger issue. So, but it'll be fun. We're looking forward to it.
So does the commissioner get steak regardless?
Yeah, I'm in regardless. So I'll be a very non-biased individual there. So I'll be able to root on both sides and eat with whoever wins.
You talk about getting things accomplished and other things you still need to work on. Can you delineate a little bit of that coming into spring? What'd you get done, and what do you still want?
Yeah, you know, I think you know, when you talk about each side of the ball, you try to get. We were so young on defense that kind of created a little bit of a modified approach in that we kept it real simple. You know, just trying to make sure we really got a great foundation, and maybe didn't do quite as much for our opponents. You know, even last spring, you know, we were going to see the triple option, so we had set aside quite a few segments to work on that. Didn't work as much on our opponents as we have. We did a little bit today, which I thought was good, on just some base concepts of different types of offenses that our offense doesn't look like that we see during the season. So that was good to get some work today, but didn't do that quite as much as we have in the past. And I think, and then offensively, you know, really trying to, you know, just get better, you know, and get our quarterbacks brought along and you know, improve our run game. That's been a major focus for us, and so that's been something that we've really invested a lot of time into. So bottom line is, I think both sides, you know, with what we needed to get accomplished and the goals we set, I feel good about where we're at.
You talked about bringing the quarterbacks along, major addition to that room. Obviously, this week you've already addressed it, but how have the kids reacted?
You know, very positive, you know, and we obviously brought him on an official visit, so they knew he was, you know, in the mix. And so I think the way he's handled it, the way he's, you know, the things he said, and he knows he's got to come here and compete, you know, and he wants to win like everybody else, and he's a sharp young man, and he was respected there as a person and his character, and even got some feedback from them, you know, pre and post with that, and which helps. You know, he's a kid that's got a, you know, pretty infectious personality, you know, and he's fun to be around, and so the guys have been around him, you know, when he came on his visit. So, but yeah, they're excited, and they know it's a chance to compete and see that anytime you have a chance to bring in a player that makes your team better, makes your room better, and makes it more competitive, and that's a very positive thing.
You talk about boosting the run game. I mean, the quarterback run, how big of a part of it maybe do you want that to be?
Well, you know, and for me, and that's kind of one of those things where, you know, as we, you know, evolve and we move forward as a program, and you get a chance to kind of, you know, pick the guys that you want for certain positions, you know, I'm a big believer in the value of the quarterback's ability to run, you know, balancing that with, you know, you have to throw the ball well. And that to me is something that I want to always have as a mainstay is to be able to throw the football. But his ability to run, extend plays, make something out of nothing, and even and more so as we get into certain types of quarterbacks, the ability to design the runs for them. The ability to create when you drop back is always something that I have wanted, you know, and that to me is something that you have to recruit. You know, some guys have that skill set, some guys don't, but I don't want that skill set, you know, at the expense of being able to throw the football, you know. So, but anytime that guy can run, you know, from a schematic perspective, you know, you now have to involve a safety to account for him. And so that's the extra guy that the defense has, you know, that they have to, you know, commit to that, to stopping that scheme. And so to me, that's where it puts the defense in conflict, you know. And so the balance of all that is being able to be able to have, you know, enough to be able to keep him off balance and keep that guy healthy. You know, that's the big picture, you know, mindset of it all. So that to me is what you try to create. And but there's no question that we would like to be able to become an offense that utilizes the legs of the quarterback. You know, and I think that's something that I'm going to be, you know, open about. And I think that's the direction you can see that we're going.
I imagine he's probably not going to be like drawing up plays or anything, but how important is it that you've got a guy who's been in an offense that puts a lot on the quarterback in terms of not just, you know, running, but decision making, the way Rich Rodriguez runs that. He's got so much experience in it.
Well, and I think that was a variable. You know, when you go through and try to pick a guy that you feel like fits what you do, and you know, when a guy's got one season, you know, it's not like he's got multiple years to get all those reps. And so, you know, the fact that he's been in a system where he's had to do those things, I think there's no question that's a huge plus. You know, and something that we did look at when he evaluated. You know, we looked at a lot of different guys, and the ability to be able to find a guy that's done that. And, you know, even with Coach Sheridan, who also, you know, was in that same system, you know, and when he was a player at Michigan and under Coach Rodriguez. So, you know, it kind of gave us how can we connect the two together because of the previous knowledge that one of our coaches has towards what he would already know. So I think that even, you know, helped as well. So I think any time you bring somebody in, you know, you want to be able to find the best way to mesh them into what we do and maximize his skill set.
You talked about designing runs and keeping quarterbacks healthy. How helpful is it to have 14 returning offensive linemen and then adding a couple? You got literally everybody back there. Is that something that you looked for this spring to see how that unit was coming together?
Absolutely. You know, and I think any time, you know, one of the strengths of your team is the offensive line. That's a really good thing, you know. And they've actually, even though they were experience-wise, you know, one of our strengths, they've really in the weight room have really maximized that even more so with Coach Blue and his staff. And really, if you had to say, if there was one group of guys that our strength staff would highlight and say, hey, man, these guys are the epitome of what you want in terms of the work ethic, the focus, the toughness, and how they work as a unit. They love those guys, you know. So it's big. You know, it's big for protecting our quarterback in the run game, you know, running the football, protect him in the pass game. You know, big men lead the way. You know, we say it all the time, and on both sides of the ball, and it's great to have so many of those guys back. And you know, we just got to keep working. They got work to do. They got to keep getting better. But it's been a really good spring for them to mesh and gel and continue to progress. So we just got to keep working.
Quarterback position. Are you at the point now where no matter who wins the job in August, that's a serious running threat for you in the offense?
Yeah, I mean, you look at all the guys that we have. You know, they're all going to be. You know, I feel confident all three of those guys that in the mix there that those guys are all have the ability to run. You know, and I think that within that there's different, you know, modes of that, but at the same time, that's a variable that we don't have to modify. You know, when you look at who might be in that position. So it is going to be an open competition going into the summer and into fall camp, and those guys will compete and make each other better. And so, but yeah, that's something that you know, we obviously utilized in the past, and I think that it's something that can be a part of what we do.
That being said, what are you looking from the guys who are going to be here on display on Saturday in the spring game?
You know, here's the thing. We, you know, I gave 2 goals for the spring game. Number one, we want to have fun. You know, the draft is a great, you know, setup, and we had a ton of fun with that, and the coaches and all. And yeah, it's competitive and everything, but at the end of the day, we want to have fun. And then number 2, you know, we want to execute the offense, execute our defense. And so I want those quarterbacks to, you know, on a, you know, like everybody does, it's going to be scaled down what you do, but I want them to be crisp and clean and sharp. You know, make their reads, get the ball out quick. You know, he's not going to be live. You know, the quarterbacks will not be tackled. You know, which is usually the case in most scrimmages in spring. But that will allow us to be able to, you know, get our tempo rolling and do the things that we do. You know, from that position. You know, it's about decision making and being able to run the offense, and that's what I want to see, and that's what I expect from our guys. And they've done that. You know, we had some good situations today, moving the football, and even did 2 minutes with Skelly, which is something that we always do. But just getting them aware, and even at the end, working them, helping them manage the clock and understand situations. So those are the kind of things. You really don't know what's going to happen in the spring game. Actually, we had overtime. You know, so hopefully you get as many different types of situations that the quarterbacks get put in that helps them develop.
The people should understand that the rules inhibit their showcasing their running ability a little bit, because if there's a defender in the vicinity,
There's no
the
doubt.
whistle blows.
Yeah, you really, in this game, the way it's going to be played Saturday, that their legs won't be a real big factor, you know, so, which is fine. And that's just the nature of it. And I don't want them to get hit, so we're still good. That ain't going to change. So, but yeah, it'll be a little bit different from that perspective.
Forgive the jinxing question, but as you think about the possibility of weather, I think the plan is kind of to evaluate it tomorrow, but does anything change if you have to move it inside? Is it just kind of the same?
No, you know, one positive is we've been inside so much. You know, there'll be business as usual. You know, matter of fact, today seemed weird being outside. You know, so but yeah, that we'd ideally like to be outside if at all possible, but obviously the weather's going to determine that. We got to make a decision, you know, from a media perspective. So we'll make that decision tomorrow around noon, and then whatever we decide, we just got to roll with it. You know, so but yeah, I don't think it's going to limit it at all. You know, just one's inside, one's outside.